The wrong turn. The late afternoon sun was dipping behind the trees, casting long shadows across the forest floor as Ethan, Chris, Olivia, and Maya made their way deeper into the woods. What had started as a casual hike was now feeling like something else entirely. They'd veered off the main trail about an hour ago, following Chris's lead when he spotted an unmarked path, hidden by thick brush. It looked untouched, almost inviting, and they couldn't resist. "Are we sure this is a good idea?" Maya asked, looking back over her shoulder as the main trail disappeared from view. Her voice was laced with uncertainty. Chris turned around and shot her a grin. "Come on, Maya, we're just exploring. This is how you find the coolest places." Olivia nodded in agreement. "Yeah, when's the last time we did something spontaneous like this?" "It's an adventure." Ethan, trailing slightly behind, didn't say anything. He liked hiking, but something about this part of the forest felt different. The air was cooler here, the light dimmer. Even though it wasn't that late, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. That he kept it to himself. He didn't want to sound paranoid. As they pushed further, the forest grew quieter. The usual sounds, bird calls, rustling leaves, distant insects seemed muted. The silence pressed in on them, making the atmosphere feel heavy. Chris spotted something up ahead and waved them over. "Guys, check this out." It was a small clearing with a circle of stones in the middle. The stones were covered in moss and looked ancient, like they'd been placed there a long time ago. In the center was a weathered metal box, half buried in the ground. "What is that?" Olivia asked, kneeling beside it. She reached out to touch the box, but Ethan grabbed her wrist. "Wait," he said. "Maybe we shouldn't mess with it. It looks old, like it belongs here." Chris rolled his eyes. "Come on, Ethan. It's just a box. Probably some old geocache or something." He tugged it out of the dirt and popped it open. Inside was a notebook, its cover damp and curling at the edges. Maya frowned as Chris flipped through the pages. "That doesn't look like a geocache logbook." The notebook was filled with frantic handwriting, the ink smeared in places from water damage. Chris read aloud, squinting at the shaky text. "If you find this, don't go back. Keep moving forward. They're watching. They're always watching." Olivia's smile faltered. "Okay, that's creepy." Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. He glanced around the clearing, but it was empty, just trees and shadows. He took a step closer to Chris, peering at the book over his shoulder. The next few entries were similar panic scribbles warning whoever read it not to turn back. "What does it mean?" "Keep moving forward," Maya asked, hugging herself as if she felt the same chill Ethan did.
Chris shrugged, but there was a nervous edge to his laugh. "It's probably a prank. Someone trying to freak out people who find it. Then why does it look like no one's been here for years?" Ethan shot back. He took the notebook from Chris's hands and flipped to the last page. The date at the top was faded, but he could still make it out. It was from almost a decade ago. And then he noticed something strange. The last entry was different from the rest. The handwriting was less frantic, more deliberate. "If you're reading this, it's already too late. They know you're here. Don't look back, no matter what you hear." Maya took a step back. "Guys, I don't like this. Let's just go back the way we came." Chris hesitated for the first time. He looked at the trail behind them, where the light was almost completely gone now. "Yeah, maybe you're right. It's getting dark anyway." They turned as a group and started back the way they'd come, but the forest seemed different now. The path that had been clear minutes ago was covered in thick brush, as if it had grown over in the time they were gone. Olivia glanced at Ethan, her eyes wide. "Did we take a wrong turn?" "No, this is the way we came," Ethan insisted, though doubt was creeping into his voice. The unease he'd felt earlier was now a cold, tight knot in his stomach. The silence was broken by the sound of leaves crunching behind them, soft, steady footsteps. Maya froze, grabbing Chris's arm. "Did you hear that?" Chris's face was pale. He opened his mouth to speak, but no sound came out. The footsteps were closer now, almost right behind them. "Don't look back," Ethan whispered, his voice hoarse. He could feel it, the presence, the eyes boring into the back of his neck. He didn't know how he knew, but he was certain that if they turned around, they wouldn't make it out of the woods. Olivia's breath hitched, her body trembling. "What do we do?" "Just keep walking," Ethan said, his voice barely audible. "Don't stop. Don't turn around." They moved as one, their steps faster now, almost running. The footsteps behind them kept pace, always just a few steps away. It wasn't an animal. It sounded like a person, but there was something wrong about it, too rhythmic, too deliberate. They reached the clearing with the circle of stones again, and Ethan's heart sank. We're going in circles. We can't be, Chris said, his voice cracking. We went straight back. The footsteps stopped. The silence was suffocating. Maya couldn't take it anymore. She spun around, eyes wide with fear. Who's there? The rest of them turned, too, despite Ethan's warning. The clearing was empty. There was no one behind them. No sign of movement. Just the trees, dark and still. But then Ethan noticed the stones. The moss was gone, the circle broken as if someone or something had moved them. In the center was the notebook again, but now it was open, a fresh page exposed. In bold, black letters, it read, "You looked back."
A cold wind whipped through the clearing, and suddenly they weren't alone. Figures stepped out from the shadows, tall, thin, with hollow, empty faces. They moved slowly, surrounding the group, blocking every exit. Ethan backed up, his heart pounding in his chest. He reached for Maya's hand, but she was gone. He turned, and so was Chris. Olivia's scream echoed through the forest, but then it cut off abruptly. He was alone. The last thing he saw before everything went black was the notebook, lying open on the ground. The ink seemed to shimmer, forming new words before his eyes. "Welcome to the circle. You're one of us now."